Hello, my crafty friends. Well, I'm here today with things 5, 6, and 7, or 5, 6, and 7, however you want to look at it, um, for the 100 Things Challenge. This is some locks that I dyed from a fleece that Tanya gave me, and I can't wait to do something with them. But I did them in immersion dyed, and so I used like a really dark green and a turquoise and a blue, and I just put these in the water and soaked them in the citric acid water, and then I put the dyes in 3 different places. Of course, when I pulled them out, they all got jumbled up, so you can see that there are different colors all mixed up in here. But the blues were in one corner and the turquoise was in a corner, and then this green kind of got blended into all of them. So this particular lock, has all 3 colors in it: the dark blue, the turquoise, and then that green. And that's when you do immersion dyeing like this with locks, that's what you get when you use 3 colors, which I think will blend into a nice yarn. And so that's why I did it this way. But I was very happy because the wool didn't felt, and it'll come apart nicely to spin. So I'm excited about that. And you can see how different the colors are. So I think when I card these into a bat, they will it'll turn out really nice. So that's sorry. Let's make this thing 5. Let me get those out of the way. And then I also dyed a fiber that was this was prepared, and it was a pencil roving it came like in a skein. So it was in a long oval, and it was just round and round like a skein of yarn. And when I put it into the pot, I just took that skein and put it down in there and tried to keep it still in a roundish form. Now my pan was round and about this big, and the skein was about this big. So when it went in there, it all squished together. But and then I used 3 colors for it too, maybe 4. I used a yellow, a real golden yellow, and I used a navy blue, and I used the teal that is the same. It actually was called teal, not turquoise. That was in the locks. And then I used some of that dark green that was in there too. And so I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but it's going to pull nicely to spin. In fact, I've got some I'm working on my spinning wheel, and it's spinning really nicely. But I took that skein, and I went through like 2 rotations around the yellow, and then I took it off right before the beginning of the next yellow. So you can see there's a little bit of yellow on the inside. That's the end. And the longer piece of yellow is the beginning. And so I did a whole bunch of these little things like that. They're all basically the same, but they don't look the same because they got more or less of each of the different dyes. But they both start with a long piece of yellow and end with just a tiny little bit. That way, each of these little bird nests are approximately the same amount of fiber. And I did this, and I had 18 of these little bird's nests, and so I put 9 in each pile, and then I weighed them to see how close I was. And each one of them, one little pile weighed 1.94 ounces, and the other little pile weighed 1.90 ounces. So I took the batch, and this is it, that weighed 1.94 ounces, and I started with it so I could kind of use that extra little bit at the beginning to figure out how to spin it. And so I'm going to spin 2. Right now, this is my plan. I may change my mind, but right now my plan is to spin 2 bobbins with not quite 2 ounces on each bobbin, and then ply them together into an almost 4-ounce skein of yarn. The other idea that I have, and I may turn to, because this is really spinning very thin, and I didn't expect it to draft so easily to spin that thin, because it looked like it was just a little bit matted. Anyway, I may end up doing it all on one skein and then coming back and doing a chain ply, so I'll get a 3-ply yarn. Sometimes when I do that, I've only actually ever done chain ply twice. And one was, no, actually I've only done it once. And let me get that yarn and show it to you. Sorry, I didn't have this out. Okay, just here's a little example. This is the 2-ply yarn that I spun out of this. This is some wool top that I dyed, and then I spun it. This is a 2-ply, and I had some left over on one of the spindles, and so I chain plied it just to see what it would do. And you can see a very real difference in the way the yarn looks. This is more round, the 3-ply versus the 2-ply. They don't take up a whole lot more space as a 3-ply, so you don't really get, you know, it's not that much bigger of a yarn, a 3-ply, than a 2-ply. It is some, but not a huge amount. But there's a big difference in the way they look. So this is the only time I've ever chain plied anything. And so I've got this little, and I overdid it, so it's got a lot more, you know, energy than this one. Although this has quite a bit of energy in it too. But that's just an example of the difference between the 2-ply and the 3-ply out of exactly the same fiber. So I'm trying to decide between doing a chain ply like this. This one broke several times as I was trying to pull it through my hands, because I just don't have, I haven't done it enough to have that motion down. And this is a lot thicker singles than what I'm spinning so far with this. So I'm a little concerned about if I'll break it a lot if I try to chain ply it. So I haven't made a decision yet. I have barely spun anything like this much on a bolt, just a tiny bit. So I'll spin a little bit more and see what I think. So there's here's thing 6, and it's very squishy, and it turned out, I think it's going to make a beautiful yarn. You can just look at that and see all the different colors in there. One thing about the chain ply, let me show you this too while we're talking about this, versus the 2-ply, is you can see how the colors are pretty, you know, they're together. There's red, there's pink, there's purple, there's green. And in here, they're all variegated. They're all in there together. You don't have very little that's just red or just green. Most of it is mixed with something else. And it's very pretty. It's just different. So if I chain ply this, I will preserve the colorways, the stretches of color, and they won't mix together, you know, between plies. It would be like the difference between this as a yarn and let's do something more obvious here, and this as a yarn. So depending on what you know, part of it is what does the fiber want to spin, and part of it is what, when it comes to the width of the fiber, when it comes to how you apply it, a lot of it depends on how you want the color to look. Do you want to preserve those strips where the colors are the same? Or do you want to mix them, have them where they show off against each other like this does? I like this, so I'm thinking I will probably go ahead and just do a 2-ply. But I'm leaving myself the option to do a 3-ply. We'll put these up. And then thing 7 is my first reel, something bigger than a sample that I've spun on my electric spinner. And it's a fairly fine yarn. I'm trying to see if you can see the different colors in it. It's got a lot of different colors in it. It looks washed out kind of in my camera compared to how it looks sitting here in front of me. This looks more how the color really looks. You just can't see all the variations in it that you might can see when it gets closer. The camera's it's dark, so the camera's trying to lighten it up, but you can tell there are different colors in there. And this is I think it's a 2-yard skein, if I'm right about my nitty knotty. Let me just make sure I'm right. Yeah, it's actually a little more than 2 yards. It's a little bigger than a 2-yard skein. So my 400 and it's probably about 450 yards that I got out of this 4 ounces of fiber, and I'm very happy with it. It feels really nice. It's very soft. It's definitely next to skin soft. And it's really pretty, but the colors don't show up really, really well. I posted a picture in the group of a singles on the spool on the bobbin and the bird's nest of the fiber, and then a little piece of the fiber just laid out. And that shows you how many colors there are in this top. I don't think this spinning it this fine really does it justice if you're really wanting to see the colors. If you just like a nice dark greenish brown fiber, then you'll love it just like this. I'm thinking about trying to spin the next one a little thicker. Sometimes when you get to where you spin thinner, spinning thick is hard. And so I'm not sure how that's going to go, but I'm going to try. Let me put this back up here. I'm going to try to spin the next 4 ounces that I have of this. I bought, when Hannah and I went on our trip, I bought 4 different colorways that were all the same fiber, just different, and they're all the same colors. They're just mixed with a different predominant color. So I thought they would all go together well. And this is what I was thinking about weaving my Ruana out of these fibers. And for that reason, I probably should spin them all this same, like this. I forgot about that when I was thinking about spinning one of them thicker. I'll have to think on that. But anyway, I bought those 4 different colorways. I bought 8 ounces of one, and then 4 ounces of the other 3. And so we will see what I decide. But this lovely skein of yarn, I'm very happy with. It's not completely consistent, but it's more consistent probably than any yarn I've ever spun. Definitely something this fine. So I'm happy with it. So there's thing 7. And I am going to, hopefully my next video will be, let me show you what it looks like at this point. My next video will be, this is thing 4. We'll be putting this into a center pull ball and then plying it so you can see how that works. And since it's a small skein, I mean a small amount of yarn, it won't take a terribly long time to do that. But so thing 4 part 2 still coming up. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying this, and I hope you don't mind me putting my fibery things in on a channel that has been for the past 2 or 3 years been predominantly paper stuff. Love you. God bless you. Keep doing things. Bye-bye.